combats are all boring. There's no pace or rhythm to them. And it's like, yeah, they take longer. That's all that I've noticed.
Blizzard has lost almost 29% of its overall player base in 3 years. But overall, Blizzard and Activision revenues are up. They don't care. It's literally like their sire Denathrius pumping Garrosh, pumping Anima out of Garrosh. Except for Anima, it's money. It's so terrifying for me to see this, because I genuinely think that they're killing the game.
How's June looking for 9.1 release? And literally was told June would be optimistic if 9.1 came out. So yeah, folks, buckle your seatbelts. We're in for a ride of Castle Nathria and Prideful for the next maybe 4 months, maybe 5. I don't know. I can tell you right now, if I were to score Shadowlands, I would score it under BFA. I would score it under Legion. Well, Legion is my 3rd favorite expansion ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm being completely honest. I had a lot more fun grinding and a lot more shit to do on a daily basis in BFA and Legion than Shadowlands.
Hey guys, so you don't know me, I'm Hari Chichi, but today I want to talk about the problems with Shadowlands. A lot of people have been having problems with Shadowlands, right? We see it all over the place. It's all you can see on WoW News is Shadowlands sucks, this sucks, Blizzard is Sire Denathrius, sucking the money out of us. And to be honest, it's kind of true. It's kind of true. I've been looking into and trying to form my own opinions and listen to other people's opinions and figure out what exactly it was. And it's actually a collective of all these things that people are concerned about. And I want to talk about my experience with Shadowlands and why I think it's quite possibly one of the worst expansions. I don't know if I'd say it's the worst, but it's definitely up there. In terms of like overall atmosphere and systems, etc. First and foremost, I want to say that like in this day and age, I'm a casual WoW player. I'm not hardcore. I used to do Mythic Plus dungeons, and I just got into raiding in Legion, and I did it in BFA and all that stuff, but right now I'm casual. I just don't really see the point in doing that endgame stuff right now, as partly due to my experience with this expansion. So I didn't get into Shadowlands in the very beginning of the X-Pack drop, right? Because I had stopped playing for school reasons and work reasons, and I didn't really have time to play WoW. I wanted to keep going, but I had to stop right after Tides of Vengeance and BFA, which apparently is right before everyone hated it, because I liked BFA in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie. I thought the atmosphere of it was great. I thought everything felt like it had meaning, but I'll get to that later. So it had been a while, and I saw Tim the Tap Man encourage JD. Some big streaming personalities were picking up Shadowlands to play on drop, and it looked pretty interesting from the little bits I watched. A buddy of mine that he's one of the original people I played WoW with back in the day during like Kata and Wrath of the Lich King, we decided to pick it back up and, you know, get back in the game because, you know, pandemic, I have time now. I'm not doing shit. So we pick up Shadowlands, and I'm not gonna lie, I was enamored at first. The first experience you have with Shadowlands is pretty epic, right? You hop into Shadowlands and they're like, holy shit, Sylvanas just cracked the dimension between life and death, grabbing Arthas's helm, and now his souls are just going straight into the sky or whatever, right? Like, it was cool. It looked cool. The art of it, I had as my desktop background for a long time with Icecrown Citadel and the sky shattered. It looked awesome. Cinematics, of course, phenomenal. The cinematics are always better than the gameplay. So we went into Shadowlands, you know, we did the little ritual with the broken Arthas armor, and we're, you know, dragging it to each of the guys, which takes goddamn forever, but whatever. We just wanted to get in there, and we ended up in the Maw. And the Maw felt cool as shit. The first thing you do in the Maw is you're with the Death Knights, and you're clearing out the forces of the jailer, and you're fighting all these people, and you're finding Jaina, you're trying to get to Anduin, and it feels good. It feels epic. It feels like you're doing something crazy, right? You're hiding out in a cave. Jaina's talking about how she's been there before. Then you see Helya, she's down there. She's one of my favorite villains. She was super cool. I think, what was it, Legion? During one of the dungeons or raids, or maybe it's just a quest line. I don't even remember. It was that long ago. But anyway, I guess spoiler alert if you haven't already seen it, but you see Bane get absolutely dropped by the jailer. He just like literally drops Bane Bloodhoof all the way down, and he cracks open or something. Then you gotta like restore him. Thrall's there. You're trying to find Thrall a weapon. It's really cool, right? You even go and free Anduin, and then you're trying to escape the Maw using this portal that only reacts to you because you're the champion of Azeroth. But then you're cut off by the jailer's forces. Instant teleport. You see the jailer, all the demons, they're not demons, I guess, or considered something else, but they, you know, you get the point. They show up, and then they chain Anduin, they chain Jaina, all of them, all the heroes of Azeroth, but you make it out. You make it out, and you leave your friends behind, and immediately I'm like, oh my god, we have to save our friends, right? You have to save your friends. Like, that was the one thing compelling me. I was like, dude, they just took Bane, Thrall, characters I love, and they're stuck in the Maw, trapped by the jailer. And at that moment, I was like, holy shit. That guy's crazy. He just instantly chained all the heroes of Azeroth, except me, because, you know, as a character, you're pretty badass. And then you teleport yourself and you go to Oribos. And then the Oribos beings, whatever you want to call them, they're really confused. They're like, holy crap, you smell of the Maw. And they're like, wait, you're a hero and you have to convince them and all this. You get the gist. And that all that feels really good. Oribos at first is so cool, right? So cool. You're seeing the ushers, like the sorting hat system of the afterlife. They explain how all the souls are sorted around to these different areas of the afterlife depending on what you did with your life, and it's super cool. And once you convince them, you learn of the Archon and how she's weak. The Anna is being sucked into the Maw. You're like, oh no, that's exactly what happened in Azeroth. Then it gets weird, right? Then it gets weird, because the first initial thing I want to do when I see the jailer take all of our friends of Azeroth as prisoners is go save them. But instead of doing that, you end up doing something completely different. You're going on a tour, right? You go to Bastion, which is beautiful. I think it's the best zone of all of them. Maybe Ardenweald in terms of aesthetics is a little better. But you go to Bastion, and it's very jarring and confusing. Like, so you're there because you're told that you need to, like, get all of the leaders of these places of the afterlife on your side to combat the jailer. But I feel like it could have been way smoother, because it ends up feeling like a tour guide, and you're just like seeing these places, and you're like forced to do it a very specific way the first time through. Like, you go to Bastion, and it's really cool, it's fun, and then you go to Maldraxxus, and that's when the dread started kicking in. I started to feel dreadful playing the game once I got to Maldraxxus. Now, Maldraxxus was kind of cool because you see Draka, who's Thrall's mother. You see, like, the story of it's pretty cool. All the different houses are, like, fighting within each other. Like, the story was cool, but playing through Maldraxxus felt kind of clunky and meh. I don't know what it was about Maldraxxus. And then we got to Ardenweald, and that was like right at that moment I was like, dude, this is just like, you see a cutscene from Legion. They literally repurposed a cutscene from Legion when the dragon lady, I forgot her name, she's like killed in that forest dungeon. It was like a mythic dungeon, or maybe it was a raid, one or the other, and then they repurposed that, and they talk about that in this expansion, which is kind of cool, you know, some callbacks good, but like, I didn't really care about that dragon. I don't know if a lot of people cared about that dragon, but like, why is there like a whole zone dedicated to talking about her? I get that there's a tree that like literally keeps everything there alive, and all the spirits of the elementals go there. Like, that's fine, but let me tell you about the story and how angry I was with Ardenweald, right? So you're helping the Ardenweald people on your little tour of the afterlife, but I completely forgot in all of the questing that I did in Ardenweald why I was there in the first place. And then you finally get to the end and you see the queen, and you remember, oh yeah, I'm literally handing a post-it note to her to say, please help me. Please help Oribos. Please help us take on the Maw, right? That's all it was. Literally post-it note. At least Maldraxxus, it felt like, oh my god, Draka's there. There's like all this despair. There's the houses are fighting each other. There's a lot of like unrest. And in Bastion, you have the story of the Kyrian and the Shadow Kyrian. I forget, what are they? The Fallen? I don't remember. That was a fun story, you know. And they had like this whole problem to them. But then Ardenweald, literally at the end, like, okay, it's not even memorable. That's what's sad. Like, that's how bad the story was for me. Like, I don't remember anything in Ardenweald except for that I was really angry that the end of the quest was me handing a post-it note to the queen, right? And then we get to Revendreth, which just felt messy. It was cool at first. It felt like, so Bastion was like amazing, and then it like progressively got worse story-wise. And you get to Revendreth where it has that same progression, but it's just like in one zone. So it was like really cool at first. You're helping the one lady in her sin tablet thing. You're trying to figure out what's going on with Sire Denathrius and what's going on there, and you eventually uncover the story that he's like stealing the anima and giving it to the jailer. And then there's that whole side quest with the Mad Hatter character, and you're having like tea parties and stuff, which I'm also told is the Covenant campaign's main thing, is you're having a freaking tea party the whole time, which is just ridiculous to me. I mean, I love having fun in a game, but like, I don't want to be forced into having tea parties. I want to like choose to do the tea party if I want to do it, right? While you're on this tour of the afterlife, in between the zones and during the zones, you're tasked to go into the maw, and you have to do these dailies, and you can go into Torghast, and you start like doing these little missions in Torghast, which are very short and repetitive. Like every time you go in, it's like, oh god, this again. And okay, you save Jaina, you save them one by one. It takes a very long process. Eventually getting to Anduin, you see a cool cutscene, and that part's kind of interesting, and you get to see some character depth with Sylvanas and Anduin. But my point being is you go through all this stuff, right? All that garbage, and none of it really moves forward, right? You go through all that stuff and nothing moves forward. I don't even remember if you like resolve anything. And this is where I'm gonna make the comparison to BFA. In Shadowlands, all the dungeons are item level locked. And the problem with the item level lock is you don't hit that until you're done with all the zones, right? So in BFA, every zone had a compelling story, at least on the Alliance side. I didn't really play through Horde side all the way through. I'm like in the process of that. But on the Alliance side, every zone had a very like compelling story. It was easy to follow. You go in, they're fun vehicle quests. There's a lack of fun vehicle quests in Shadowlands. But you, at the end of every zone, you have the dungeon, and the dungeon is a very powerful narrative tool and narrative device that pushes the story forward and gives you an epic conclusion to the zone, right? When you go into the like haunted mansion dungeon at the end of Drustvar, it feels epic. It's like, oh, these villains have been like messing with the zone, and it like scales like very nicely story-wise, and it feels good to complete it because it's like, oh my god, I just conquered and liberated Drustvar or Storm Song or whatever, and you're fighting like bosses that feel relevant at the time. But by the time that you go back to Bastion, like, yeah, they're still capping the story of that zone, but I completely forgot the story of the zone by the time I get to the dungeon, right? I think the only time it's implemented is in Bastion. I might be wrong. I might be remembering wrong, and if that's the case, just butcher me in the comments for that wrong point. But like, still, it felt messy. Bastion is the only one I remember or recall having a good like dungeon implementation into the zone. Everything else just felt like a complete mess. Like, you don't even go into Theater of Pain until way later. Like, the actual dungeon is so different from what you experienced in the beginning of Maldraxxus, and that bothers me. When we got to Endgame, it just felt so repetitive. The world quest takes so long to do. Anything that requires you to charge up a bar takes so long. It's very unenjoyable. It feels very grindy. Like, it feels like I used to play a game called Maple Story when I was in middle school, and that was a huge grindy game, and that's all WoW feels like in Shadowlands. Torghast, no one likes doing Torghast. And that's the one thing that like is what you want to do. Like in the beginning, like I said, I wanted to go save my friends, but you get distracted by all this bullshit happening around that it doesn't even feel like a cohesive story or experience. You're just like on a tour of the afterlife, and then you're like, oh yeah, my friends are in jail. They're in Torghast in the tower, and they kind of implement it. You know, you go every once in a while, but the zones take so long to get through that you just kind of forget. And then they make it so that Torghast is like this huge thing in the story, and then they use that as a huge like device for your legendary gear, right? And then you have to grind it, and it's not that fun, man. Like, there's been times where I go into Torghast and I get a really fun build, and sometimes that's kind of fun just to cheese around, but that only happens every so often. And you can only do so many runs, and then it takes forever to get your soul ash. So Torghast feels like a chore. The world quests feel like a chore, which I love doing world quests because it's a way for me to explore the world and see like the zone and stuff. And they make that so hard. The world quests take just so long. And on top of that, I started to think about like the time padding, right? They don't want to add a Flight Master whistle, and flight's going to be very limited in 9.1, right? No Flight Master whistle. You have to run very far to some of these flight paths, and the flight time is like most of the expansion, I swear to God. The flight time feels like it takes up so much time. It's just padded to make it feel like you're in the expansion longer or something, I think is the case. And it feels so wasteful. And you know what I ended up doing? I would just put on like a Twitch streamer, or I'd put on YouTube, and I'd watch like Mudahar talk about like the dark web, and I'm just like not like paying attention to the game at all. I'm like not having a good experience with it. I'm just kind of doing it to do it because I want to play with my friends. I want to do all this stuff so that we can do things together. But like in the end, I just got bored. I got burnt out. And honestly, my buddy had a very similar experience. And we found ourselves just complaining about the game again, like more every time we played the game. We would just sit there and be like, God, this sucked. Remember in this expansion it was so fun. Remember in this expansion it was super fun. Oh man, that's great. So then we decided, you know, let's go and do some old content. You know, let's get the mechagnomes, let's get some of the allied races, right? So we're in Mechagon, we're doing the dailies, trying to get the reputation to unlock mechagnomes, and we see there's this super epic daily thing or story quest, and we figure, hey, we might get a bunch of rep for that. And it was the Mechagon Super Dungeon, which I guess they added way later after we'd stopped playing because we'd never seen it before. So we go into the Mega Dungeon, and it was phenomenal. It was a super fun experience. I was on an underleveled rogue, he was on his main shaman, and then we just picked up some like random person who just needed to get the Mega Dungeon quest out of the way. So we picked them up as 3 of us, not even a full party, no tank, no healer, just a level 50 something rogue, a maxed out shaman almost, and just some other random person. And it was such a grind. It felt like we were doing a raid at the time, but it felt really good to just run through. It was a blast. We died a lot. We pulled way too much too often, and it was kind of stupid, but the boss fights were so much like more enjoyable than anything in Shadowlands. The atmosphere of Mechagon in that Mega Dungeon was better than anything in Shadowlands. The boss fights, the story, it was just funny. There was a lot of humor. There was good funny stuff. It was just fun and goofy, and there isn't really any of that in Shadowlands. Right? There's no fun, goofy stuff. Maybe at the end, but I'm not someone who wants to wait till the end for some fun and goofy stuff. And then we even leveled alts, which is probably the best experience in Shadowlands. I gotta give Shadowlands some props where props are due. Leveling alts is the best experience in Shadowlands, which is sad, and I'm gonna explain why. You go to level an alt, right? Or maybe this is your first time. Maybe you're a new player and then you bought like Shadowlands or something because your friends like want to play it with you, and you get to have time walking, and you get to choose what timeline you want to level in, and I think that is awesome. I think you should be able to level wherever you want, experience whatever storyline you want. But the problem with that is, so you're given like, you know, free reign. You're given free reign in the beginning, and it feels good. It's like, holy shit, I have choices. I can choose what I want to do. This is awesome. So we chose MOP, Mists of Pandaria, because I never played through. He loved Mists of Pandaria. So I said, screw it, let's level through it. And I actually found myself enjoying Mists of Pandaria Zone significantly more than Shadowlands. And I was like, wow, leveling this monk in Pandaria has been a blast. It looks cool. There's some goofy quests. The story's pretty I mean, story's kind of whatever, but you see the Shah thing, the giant evil spirit in the middle of the zone, like immediately, and the Horde and Alliance are going at it. It feels like you're at war. It felt good. It felt good. All the zones were really fun. The aesthetics were beautiful. And I wish they'd have an expansion kind of like that again. Like, BFA was actually kind of pretty in some areas, so I appreciated that. But it was sad because we're sitting there and we're like, how come the new expansion doesn't feel like this old one? How come we didn't feel the same excitement we did when we played BFA? How come I'm not feeling the need to know life like in Legion? You know what I mean? And it was weird. It was sad because, at least for me, I can't speak for my friend, but when I hit 50, I kind of felt dread because I knew I didn't have the freedom really anymore. If I wanted to do 50 to 60, I mean, I could do old content, but what's really the point in doing that at level 50, you know? So we went to Shadowlands and I did the alt way of leveling it, and I honestly hate the alt way of leveling through Shadowlands right now. I hate the alt way of leveling through Shadowlands because you're just doing world quests and you're trying to fill a bar in each zone one at a time, and it takes so long. It's without any gear, and there's like not really any progression. Like, you can still do the quests and stuff, but it just doesn't feel good. So you're honestly, at least in my opinion, better off doing the story again on an alt, which the story isn't that great, so like you're kind of subjecting yourself to that like unfun experience. In the end, it's just an unfun experience overall. I don't see like the worth in redoing Shadowlands content for the story anymore. And I really don't look forward to doing some of the dungeons, and you still even have to gear to get into those dungeons. And then you do the raid, you can only do that so many times before that's boring. It just sucks. It just hurts, man. It hurts to see it. And there's a lot of issues with systems that people get mad about, but I personally don't really care about the systems. I care about the overall atmosphere. And this is where I'll talk about BFA to a bigger extent, or Legion, or any expansion. Maybe minus WoD. Warlords of Draenor was bad. In BFA, compared to Shadowlands, it actually felt compelling. Although some of the systems, people like who are very formulaic and system like, you know, it didn't really jive with them very much. But for me and for my friend and a lot of other people, the atmosphere of BFA was amazing, right? You go in and it's returning to the roots of what World of Warcraft is. It was Horde versus Alliance, right? Horde versus Alliance, it felt good. It was like, oh dang, my faction needs me to like help. I'm doing these garrison things. We're doing the islands. We're trying to get Azerite for the Alliance. We're gonna take out the Horde, and they're on a completely different zone. You have your own zone. You get to go to the other faction's zone and like, you know, do strike team stuff, do some like cool like spy missions. There was dinosaurs on the Horde side. You had like a pirate theme thing on the Alliance side. The dungeons were interesting. The dungeons were incredible. The boss fights were some of the most fun ones I'd ever had. I loved exploring all the different zones. You're trying to get more allies for your fight with the other faction. Horde with the Zandalari and the Kultirians with the Alliance, plus a few others. And it was epic. And eventually you had the mode where the Horde and the Alliance would go into a big zone and they just duke it out with siege weapons. And I think that was like a weekly you could do. It was super fun. It was really fun because everything felt like it had a purpose. Everything was streamlined to feel like, yeah, you're in a war with the Horde, and it was so easy to do. Same thing with Legion. It's like you're at war with the Legion, right? Everything you're doing is aiding your side to fight the Legion, even if you're not fighting the Horde or anything. There's this actually like constant threat that feels like a threat, and that's it. But the problem with Shadowlands is the atmosphere. I don't know if they were trying to make it feel like you were in the Maw at all times in the game or something, but the atmosphere is not there. It's not a fun atmosphere. I don't feel like I'm in danger of the Maw or anything. It's like a shadow in the background. It's not actually a developed like fear in its current state. Whereas like the only threats I see are the ones within the afterlife. Maybe Sire Denathrius. Revendreth's the only one that actually mattered. But like I don't care about the Maw right now. Like, they showed it off a little bit in the beginning of Shadowlands, but I don't care about it. I really don't. I don't really care about the jailer right now either. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but the atmosphere and, like, the overall vibe of, like, just Shadowlands doesn't feel very Shadowlands-y. Like, it feels like it's a bunch of different zones trying to do different things with different stories that have nothing to do with the overarching villain that you're supposed to be fearing. And maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I don't like World of Warcraft anymore, which I have decided to take a long break. Now, I talked about all the PvE and the story stuff, and like I'm not really super into PvP, but I will talk about my experience with PvP too. Right now, PvP supposedly has like some of the best progression, but then now it's reverted a few months later. Now people say it's bad. I think it's bad right now because there's no catch-up system, and I joined in the middle of the X-Pack, so PvP is almost impossible for me, and it's not very fun to go into battlegrounds and arenas and get absolutely dumpstered every time and only get a little bit of honor in the hopes that we maybe win because I'm under geared and I just can't keep up with the other people. It just is not an enjoyable experience right now for me in BG, so I just kind of avoided them, and I don't want to like just sit there and get absolutely dumped on for hours on end to hopefully get one piece of honor gear to maybe last a little longer. But a lot of people already have maxed out PvP gear, so like I can't get in there. that's my experience. So the last one I want to make with Shadowlands is there's just a lot of missed opportunity. I think they could have brought the X-Pack back to Azeroth, like the mainland Azeroth, because think about it. You have the barrier between life and death has just been shattered. You could have demons coming into normal Azeroth. Make us care about like the original islands again. Like make us care about Stormwind. Make us care about other characters that were like, you know, big pieces of the whole adventure of World of Warcraft. Now I understand there's people who think like, oh, death isn't as permanent, but when the barrier of life and death is shattered, I think you have some leeway there. You could have brought back like Hogger, and like he could have been Maw touched, and he could have been like extra dangerous, and he'd be like in Azeroth, and like maybe you don't know what's going on right away, and you know it would have been better if they built it up and you're defending Azeroth from like the forces of death and stuff's like invading and everything, as opposed to just touring the afterlife and doing fuck all, right? I think it would have been much more fun. Bring back Varian Wrynn, although I think he's like kind of in the void, so he probably couldn't come back even if he wanted to. But bring back these characters, bring them to Azeroth, turn them into bosses, and then you like kill them, get some emotional attachment, you know, maybe they're not in control of their body, you send them back to the afterlife, and then you finally figure out what happened later, and then you go do what we're currently doing in Shadowlands, and that could be the end of the X-Pack, and then you fight the jailer and save them. Like, that just makes so much more sense to me. They dropped the ball, they missed so many good opportunities with the story, and I think that would have been a way cooler idea for something that has to do with life and death. Like, I don't care about tea parties. I don't really care about the Kyrian, although they did bring Uther there, so that was like one cool callback. There's so much stuff they could have done with life and death in Azeroth, and they just didn't do it. Bonus, I think the level squish was stupid. I think being level 60 is stupid. But anyway, I needed to rant, man, because I love World of Warcraft. I still do. I don't want to stop playing entirely. I'll probably return back for 9.1 because I'm stupid and I hate myself. So I'm going to just put myself through some more Shadowlands torture because I want to do the raid. And then after I do the raid, I'll quit again. And I've been playing other MMOs just to see like what's up with those. And I found a few that I think are very enjoyable. And I'll spend most of my time playing those and just playing WoW on the side now, whereas it used to be the other way around. And it feels bad, man. It feels like I went through a divorce. You know, when I finally decided to just, you know, get rid of WoW, unsubscribe until something's better, I literally felt like I went through a very harsh divorce with a very long, like a 15-year-long marriage or something. That's what it felt like, and it sucks. I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to stop playing World of Warcraft. I love that game, but you know, right now there's just better stuff. There's just better stuff to play, and I'm not gonna keep giving money to a company that obviously doesn't like give a shit about the community or anything. Like literally, there was that interview with Ian with Preach, and it just was a big like fuck you. So I don't want to keep paying for something I don't really want to play at the moment, and honestly, I hope that you guys don't either. And don't fall for the stupid level boost shit with TBC. I think that's a complete ripoff. And the character cloning is a complete ripoff with TBC Classic. It's just going a very, very bad direction. So that's just my take. I know I'm a nobody speaking at the camera and just throwing my stuff onto the internet on YouTube. But if you did end up hearing this and, you know, maybe you agree or disagree with this stuff, let me know in the comments. Drop a like, dislike. Let me know your thoughts on Shadowlands and whether you think this is a good expansion, bad expansion, better than BFA, worse than BFA. What do you like about Shadowlands? What do you hate about Shadowlands? I'd like to hear both sides. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video with whatever the hell it is I'm doing. Peace out.